beautiful people, welcome to Remi's Fashion. My name is Remi. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how to draft a crop top. So let's get started. I'm going to draft out this crop top because I like this kind of free tops. I can always increase the length to whatever I want and turn it into like a box top. It doesn't have to necessarily be crop. It can be longer. So when it's longer, you can call it whatever you want to call it. But for this class now, I'm going to be drafting a crop top. I'm drafting it so that I can use the pattern over and over again for whatever project I want to be doing at that point in time. The first thing I'm going to do is to draw out a starting point. And this, my starting point, is going to be my shoulder line. And then from this starting point, I'm going to draw out all my vertical measurements. So from my shoulder to my bust is 12 inches. So I'm going to mark. And then shoulder to the length of my top is going to be 20 inches. I'm going to make my 20 inches. And then I'm going to add 2 inches hemming allowance. I'll draw a horizontal line to connect my points. And then I'm going to label them. So this is my shoulder line, this is my bust line, and then my waist line, which is also the length of my top. So the next thing I'm going to do now is on my shoulder line, I'm going to measure out my shoulder measurement. My shoulder is 18 inches divided by 2. It's going to give me 9 inches. So I'm going to measure out 9 inches and I'll mark. And then I'm going to be drawing out my neck width and neck depth. I want to have a neck width of 3 inches and a neck depth of 4 inches. And then I'm going to drop my shoulder by 1 inch and connect to the width of my neckline. After doing this, I'm going to create my chest line. So to be able to get your chest line, divide your bust circumference measurement by 6 and add 1.5 inch. So mine is 9 inches. So I'm going to measure 9 inches down. And then I'm going to draw out this line to the chest line. The next thing I need to do is to create my armhole curve. For that, I need to get the midpoint of this line. Mine is 4.5 inches. Then I'm going to go in by ½ an inch. This is for the front. And then on my chest line, I'm going to plot in my bust circumference measurement. So mine is 11 inches. I'm going to be adding ½ an inch ease, because I want this top to be free. I don't want it all fitted, okay? And then now I'm going to connect from this point to this point to this point. So this is my armhole for my front. And then the next thing I need to do now is to plot in my circumference measurements. So I'm going to plot it in on my bust line. So I already said mine is 11 inches. I'm going to add ½ an inch ease because, like I said, I don't want it too fitted. So I'm going to do the same thing to the waistline as well because, like I said, this is not a fitted top. So I'm going to plot in 11 inches down here as well. And then I'm going to add ½ an inch ease. And then I'm going to connect all the way down to the bottom like this. And then I'm going to be adding 1 inch sewing allowance to my top. So I'm going to measure 1 inch sewing allowance. And then I will just connect with a straight line. So this is my sewing allowance. I'm just going to put that there, SA, because once I put this, I know it's my sewing allowance. So this is my chest line, bust line, waistline, and this is the hem line. This is the pattern for our top. So I'm going to cut out this pattern now, and then we'll draft for the back. So after doing this, the next thing I'm going to do now is to cut out this pattern. So this is our crop top for the front. I'll just write front pattern crop. Crop top. So every time I take this pattern, I know what to do. So the next thing we're going to do now is to draft out the back crop pattern. So I'm going to draw out my starting point. And this is my shoulder line. I'm going to be drawing out my zipper allowance. This is going to have a zipper. So I'm going to measure 1 inch for my zipper allowance. And then I'm going to be measuring out my vertical measurements like I did for my front. This is me basically drafting out the basic bodice without the darts. And then I'll just write out my labels. This is my bust line, my waistline. After doing this, I'm going to plot out my shoulder on my shoulder line. And then I'm going to drop this by 1 inch. And then I'm going to create my neckline. For the back, my neckline, the width is still going to remain 3 inches, just like I did for the front. And then the depth for the back, I want to make it 1.5. So I'm just going to connect. And then this 1 inch that I came down by, I'm just going to connect it to the width of the neckline. And then I'll draft out my chest line. This is me doing it all over again, just like I did for the front. So this is my chest line. So I'm going to drop this down. So you measure your 9 inches shoulder line, you bring it down to the chest line. And then you connect the points. Then I'm going to be drawing out my armhole curve. And to do that, we'll get the midpoint. Mine is 4.5. So I'm not going to be going in for the back. And then I will take my bust circumference measurement, plot it in here. Add 1/2 inch because that's what I added for the front. And then I'll connect to this midpoint like this. And then I'll plot the circumference measurements. Remember, we used 11 inches. Mine is 11 inches. Whatever yours is what you should use, because this is not a tight fitted top. So I added 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to bring that same measurement here, which is 11.5 inches. So that's 11 inches. Then you add 1/2 inch here. And then I'll connect all my points. Remember, for the front, we added 1 inch sewing allowance. I'm going to do that for the back as well. 1 inch. And then I'll connect. I'm just going to write it so that I don't forget. 1 inch sewing allowance. And this is our back pattern. So this is the zipper allowance. For the zipper allowance, I want the back to have a very good fitting. So this is my hem allowance. So on the waistline, I'm just going to go in by 1/2 inch. I want it to have a very nice fitting at the back. I'm going to be adding a zipper, and I don't want the zipper bulge. So I'm just going to go in by 1/2 inch, and then I'm going to connect all the way to the top. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side as well. Just go in by 1/2 inch just to create a nice shape at the back without the zipper bulge. And then I'm going to connect upwards. So this is my new zipper allowance. I'm not going to be using this anymore. So the next thing we need to do now is to cut out this pattern. That's my hem allowance. So I'm just going to cut out. So this is our back pattern. And these are my pattern pieces. This is my front pattern, this is my back pattern, and then this is my sleeve. So the next thing we need to do now is to cut out on fabric. So this is the fabric I'm going to be using. I already added hem allowance to my pattern and then sewing allowance on the side. So the only allowance I needed to add was to join the shoulders together, which I have added. I don't need to add here and I don't need to add here. So now I'm going to cut out this pattern. So I'm going to fold and then cut out the back as well. This is the front. I'll cut out the back. I'll be using this part to cut out the sleeves. So I'm going to fold the other side. I want this pattern, this one that has the more pronounced purple part, to be at the top. And that's the same thing I'm going to be doing for the back as well. Then I can actually use this part to cut the sleeves. So this is the back. I've added my sewing allowance to the shoulders. I will now cut out and then I'm going to notch my zipper allowance. And then I'll open this side up. So it's 1 inch sewing allowance that I added. You can decide you want the length of your sleeve to be longer. You can do that because that's what is left. So this is the length of my sleeves. So I will now cut out. I already added sewing allowance to here. So I'll add sewing allowance to the top because I didn't. I only added to the side and to the bottom. So this is one sleeve. I'll use this sleeve now to cut the other one. So these are my pattern pieces, my back pattern, front pattern, and then these are my bell sleeves. So the next thing I need to do now is to cut out facing for both my front and the back. If you want to use lining, you can go ahead and cut out your lining. If you want to be using bias tape, you can go ahead and use your bias tape. But for me, for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to be using a facing. So I'm going to be cutting out facing for both my front and the back. The front, the back pieces, and our sleeves. So in order for this video not to be too long, in the next tutorial, we will sew the pieces together. I hope this tutorial was helpful. Please give me a thumbs up, share, like, and subscribe if you have not done so already, and put on your notification bell so that every time I post a new tutorial, you'll be the first to be notified. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next tutorial. Take care and God bless.